Hello! Hello, welcome. Are you guys ready for our second Shork Talk ever? Managed to make it just about exactly a month in between. I had wanted to do this one last week actually. I think I could have been prepared if it weren't for certain gaming events. But here we are now. Hello, hello, hello. This is the who what? You have a permit for holding this lecture in public? You don't need a permit for that. Ready to learn? Excellent. Bam the knowledgeable? Well, I wouldn't go that far. I'm doing good though. How are you guys? We'll yap a little bit before we get going. How is this Sunday for everybody? There is no entry fee, no. Tiny sculpt. Researching this did make me go, oh man, like wood carving would be so cool. I cannot do that though. There's no way. But yeah, welcome in. I think I'm ready. I think I'm readier than I was for the last one. I think I have put things together in such a way that I will be able to say all that I should from my notes. But we'll see how it goes. This one, there were a lot of pictures to put together. There were a lot of pictures to put together for this one. That took me a minute. Statue drawings, thank you. I wouldn't call them statues though, we'll get to that, but thank you. I thought it would be fun to put a couple. You guys have a puppy up there. I guess sniffing ya, I don't know. Howdy, howdy. Japanese ambassador, look, my only hope is to not offend. I don't know if I can claim ambassador or anything. Ready for the tiny sculpture tour? What's up on the itinerary? Oh, we got plenty. My little guy collection. Yeah, this is a little bit like yesterday in a way when we saw some folks who just wanted to share their collection in their little guy image folder on their computer. Also, ignore how poorly I photoshopped some of these. It's only these ones. The actual ones, once we get in there, will not be poorly cut out of their background. Can we claim a sculpture? No. You like the horse? It's a very common design for horse Netsuke, but we'll see more of those later. I really love the rats in the top left. Or mice. I don't... Either or. I like those guys. Do you guys like the monkey biting an octopus next to my head? This is really something. Now keep in mind, these of course, as you are seeing them on the screen, relative to me, are very far off from their real scale. You'll see how much. Yeah, he's doing something. Nobody's stealing anything. There's also, I got my little drawn octopus down there by me. We got a moth and a boar. And that's all the ones I drew for. I drew those from pictures in one of the books I reference. Yeah, don't worry about it. I want a tiny snack. Yeah. Wait, are you having a tiny snack or is this guy having a tiny snack? Because I feel like you could say either one. And it'd be good either way. I also like the beetle up top. Ran across someone claiming that tiny detailed sculptures were proof that ancient civilizations had lasers. Ugh. Ugh. God. Yeah, just shake them. Just shake them. I did, oh, the monkey, yeah, he is. I did read in one of my reference books for this that, that miniature arts like this are sort of common in Japan, and he attributed that to chopstick use actually, and the sort of finger dexterity that builds from a very young age, and that being lending itself to such teeny tiny kind of detailed work pretty well. Ancient Japan had romance. Well, yeah. I mean, none of this is ancient. Well, you'll see though. No, that is not another strange-looking monkey. That is an octopus. There are a lot of octopus Netsuke that I did not include here for reasons. Is the guy in the middle cleaning a monkey or shutting it in a barrel? He appears to be trying to shut it into a barrel, and I don't know why. I don't know why, but he seems... I love his face as he does this. Japanese 40k scene goes hard. Oh, I can see that. Transform him into a mochi? I know, he's so nonchalant about it. Explains why they're better at Mario Kart too. Well, I don't know about that. You think any human would be able to draw such a thing? Yeah, it was definitely given to me by aliens. All of this was like that. Bonjour, roommate. Yeah, I like the beetle up there. You're actually on the right track with the pastry. We'll get to more about that though. I also like the owl. He's a fun guy. This is just sort of a selection of ones that I put on here. We also have the one in the bottom right that has some lovely inlay. That kind of that's less common. But alright, are we ready to jump in? I have on screen the kanji for Netsuke, which breaks down to the kanji for root and for attach, which kind of speaks a little bit to the origins of Netsuke, but it also, I don't think it makes necessarily the most sense with the use that they evolved into. I did not include the full breakdown in kanji for all of the words we will be in terms that we're going to be dealing with today, but we got that one on there. Let us begin! Let me get my pen. First of all, let's get a sense of the scale of these things. So you see all of these here. I have this museum picture of a bunch of them on display, and you can kind of get a feel for how tiny they are. Here I present a bird that we will be using for scale. Usually, if birds for scale means birds that make a castle look big or something, but this is gonna be slightly different. Am I some kind of Japanese media appreciator? I don't know if we can call these media. Okay, and then here is me and birds for scale. I am 58.6 tiny birds high. This bird is very, very small. They're very, very small, and you'll see why very soon. So just to give you an idea, and I have the size listed on all of these, on all of the images used, except for the ones at the beginning. But I have the size listed. So think about this. I have a ruler. I brought a ruler. That makes this little bird smaller than my thumb. So keep that in mind when you see how crazy some of these are and how detailed they are. And I described to you the way some of them were made. Keep in mind they're really little. My personal collection? No, I do not own any Netsuke. No. Anything but metric, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's about... It's a little over an inch. Alright. So you get an idea. Here is the main idea with Netsuke. These are meant to be worn. They are... Why do you own 58? What do you mean? I don't own 58 little birds. Nobody does. That was just for scale. So the point of these was, it was common in the past in Japan to wear, what they referred to as sagemono, which means a hanging thing. And I'm on the wrong layer. And that would be anything down here. And then it would have a cord attached to it, and then it has this bead here, which is an ojime, which helps hold this cord properly. And then the cord passes up under the belt of the kimono, and then the Netsuke sits at the top and is what holds it and keeps it from falling. So that's what all of these are, is little sculptures that are meant to help hold something hanging from the kimono. Fables for skill should replace the metric system. Little belt fellas, yeah. Decorative keychains, yeah. Ye old keychain. That's a solid way to put it. It's hard to think of something comparable in the modern world. I guess keychain is a good comparison. Yeah, that's kind of the main thing about these, is that they are actually of practical use, which puts them opposed to okimono, which would just be sort of small sculptures that have no particular use. They're just, little sculptures. And so Netsuke are designed with their use in mind, and so you get there's a focus on the material that they're made from, because it has to be durable enough, and it also has to be smooth so that it does not catch on the kimono fabric or yourself or anything else. And it was also very important, they use a term called aji for the feeling of it, because they would be handled so often that it was important that it was important the way that it felt to handle it. So they tend to have sort of a softness to them in that regard as well. The aura farming potential, we'll get to that. That's actually important. Also, hello, welcome in. So that's sort of the breakdown of how these were used. I saw, I don't think I got it in here anywhere, but I saw that there are illustrations depicting like sort of a more complicated setup with these, where people would have a Netsuke and then several things hanging from that one, so like even more like a keychain, I suppose. Here we have Inro, which is sort of one of the initial known uses of Netsuke, which are these beautiful lacquered boxes that fit together. At the top you can see one that is open for a better sense of how it works. And these were used to carry medicine, mostly. Medicine or personal seals, like for signing things. This one on the right was used for tobacco, but we will see that the tobacco pouch was a lot more common. Hold on, I have to refer to my notes. In the 16th century was when the Portuguese introduced tobacco to Japan, and so it became common to carry a tobacco pouch on the hanging as a sagemono from the kimono. And those became super fashionable as well as the Netsuke. Before this, they seem to have been in use, but they were not really sculptural in the way that they became. Most likely the first Netsuke were just like objects that were like, you'd put a hole in a piece of wood or something, or objects that had another use. Apparently some would have come from objects that they got from China and adapted for use as Netsuke. But here you can see how they came into sort of fashionable use with the introduction of tobacco and tobacco smoking as like a prominent feature of the life of businessmen. This was also a time in starting in the 17th century, there were really strict sumptuary laws controlling what people could wear. And so this became kind of a little loophole in that, where people could express their wealth and luxury through Netsuke and tobacco pouches and inro without breaking those laws. But you have a cool Netsuke on the one on the top right. It's like it's a pearl with this beautiful gold wrapped around it. So like this is a close-up of the back of it, and this is what the front looks like. And then they would carry the pipe and the pouch hanging from there. There's something that would lodge itself between the belt and the clothing. Yeah. And it was a little later. Yeah, it was later that they took the time to develop it into more of an art instead of just a convenience. You know when Netsuke might have started getting used in general, like the pre-Little Guys version? I have an indication of it somewhere. The one book I read, the Netsuke Handbook, which is the only directly Japanese source I could get on this, ties it back to the carrying flint and money bags as far back as the 12th century. So that's not like 100% certain, but it could be centuries before they became really intricate and fashionable. What do you think the odds are on getting something from China thinking it meant something else? Like all those tattoos people get not understanding what it actually says. Especially early Netsuke and a lot of Japanese adapted myths and whatnot do come from China. This was a period of time when they highly revered things from China, so chances are a lot, actually. There's definitely like a lot of things that are adapted and taken and borrowed from Chinese stories and whatnot. 150-year-old tobacco pouch from your great etc. grandfather. Wow, made of sackcloth. Yeah, these were made from variety of materials. If it was leather, it was probably imported. Do you think they had cons? I don't think they had cons. No. You're picturing Genji characters with little keychains? Maybe. I didn't see any of those specifically, but there are a lot of characters from various things. Flint, you said? What was that used for? Makeshift writing utensils? No, for making fire. They did have, I have somewhere here a list of different sagemono. People would carry, writing kits as a sagemono. And like perfume bottles and things. Money bags, etc. That kind of thing. Anything that, you know, wouldn't fit nicely into the sleeves or the folds of the kimono. Because some people will state that sagemono became a thing because kimono don't have pockets. And that's not entirely true. Kimono do have places where you can store things, like in the sleeves. But some stuff that's not really convenient for. Chinese porcelain was a major luxury. Porcelain tea utensils was a huge way of showing off status and wealth. Yeah, I definitely got indications of tea ceremony things being really important, and art-worthy. I was just watching a Bob's Burgers episode about a Netsuke. I watched a video that mentioned that. They do come up in... Netsuke is mentioned in an episode of Bob's Burgers, of all things. I found out about that. I didn't watch it, though. Oh, let's see. Netsuke were made of many different materials. As I mentioned, they would have been made from potentially like rock sticks, shells, etc. before they became more of an art form. Once it developed, the most common materials, you can't see that. The most common materials would have been ivory and wood. The most popular wood would have been boxwood, which is a very strong and high quality wood that is native to Japan. They initially started working in cypress, but it proved to be too soft to hold up well as Netsuke. So most of them would be in boxwood, and I believe that would be what this one you see here is, judging by the color, matching a lot of other ones I've seen. But I can't say for sure. But yeah, look at this thing. Look how so that's 4.4 centimeters long. It's about the size of my thumb. It's about the size of my thumb. And it's that detailed. These things took months to make. Samuel's owning porcelain tea utensils was big. Yeah. Rewarding retainers with porcelain items was huge. Yeah. Yeah, there was, yeah, it's very small. And there's so much detail. Like, you can see these, like, flower details. You can see little tiny people all over the boat. And it's hollowed out inside. You can see through it. There are, what lighting were they working in? Yeah. Well, it was, this one was 19th century, so yeah, so this one definitely is a mark of sort of a later period of Netsuke carving where they did just kind of push more for intricacy. I think this one kind of pushes the limits of being usable in a certain way because there are so many like detailed bits of it that seem somewhat fragile compared to something like this mushroom. This mushroom, I believe you can also, I don't have additional pictures of it, but I believe this is one where you can tell that the holes that are needed for the cord to pass through are a built-in part of the design. That's something that they tried to do quite a bit. Some of them, like this one, would definitely just have like holes carved into the bottom of it, where the cord would pass through and then not on one side. But this one, the cord would most likely pass underneath the stem here. And so it's a part of the way it's designed. Be terrified to wear something. I know, right? Magnifying lenses? I don't know. 10mm scale war games. How much is that in tiny ivory birds? About one. Yeah, so this one is obviously, not seen a lot of use. You can see a little bit of the staining on it. That would have been done in Sumi ink. You see that on a lot of the ivory ones. Amount of status piece? Yes, a lot of these were status pieces, especially among businessmen. They had these as a matter of like showing off. They would meet and like show off their tobacco pouches and their Netsuke and be like, look how cool these are, look how much money I spent on this, I'm so successful. Zoom in on the boat? Maybe, kind of. Yes. I had to think about how best to do that. Boat. Like the business card scene in American Psycho. Just like that. Just like that. You can even see like this dude's got a face. You can see like a nose and an eye. Japanese Rolex watch flexing. Yeah, essentially. Because they couldn't have fancy clothing. So this is what they had. This is how they showed off. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything else. We're still talking about materials. I have a huge list of things that they were made out of. Yeah, it was more by the 18th century that it developed as sort of the status symbol that it became among businessmen, just as an additional timing note. Wonder how many attempts were done. Probably a few. Probably at least a few. But again, these took months to make. Sure, so consistent that it allows this level of scale detail. Yeah. So these are the most common materials, ivory and wood. You get ones like this that are made with ivory, and they follow the shape of the piece available. I read about how a cheaper source of ivory for some artists, and usually less skilled artists, was leftover ivory from making shamisen picks. They would get the leftover pieces from that and carve those, and then you would get these distinctly triangular Netsuke out of that. And I don't know for sure that this is one of those, but this one is definitely sort of going along with the original shape of the material, in the form that the finished piece takes. And there's a rats on a radish. They're really cute. Rats are very popular. We'll get to why. Rats are very, very common to find Netsuke of. Here we have a really fun one. This is a boar tusk that is carved with a shishi on it. And on the back, these circles here are portraits of poets and their poems. So like you can just you can't really see. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. You can see it a bit better. It has poems inscribed on it, along with a portrait of the poet responsible. And then you can also see the hole here, for the cord. In the teeniest and tiniest of detail. You can also see there's a little bit of like a branch carving over here at the other side. Really a show-off piece, absolutely. But I thought this one was fun for the way that it's using the natural shape of the tusk. Hello. Welcome in. What was it carved with? A variety of carving tools. I watched a video from a contemporary Netsuke carver where he has over 100 carving knives that he apparently made himself. I don't know if that's entirely the way they would have had it set up before. Most Netsuke carvers, especially earlier on, were only hobbyists. It was not really a profession until sort of probably the late 18th, early 19th century. Which is part of how you end up getting a lot of really varied designs, because something like painting, you have traditions, and you also have painters were commissioned by families and expected to produce certain works within certain traditions. And Netsuke carvers were usually artists of another sort, or they worked in something relevant, but they carved Netsuke sort of on the side as a hobby. And so they kind of had a lot more freedom with what they did. Later on, there became more established traditions within Netsuke, and so you see a lot of sort of works after so-and-so that reproduce the same kind of design, and it gets more regulated in that way, but early on, at least, there's a lot of variety. You'd accidentally fidget with these things too much. Well, that was the point, was to fidget with them. I have a few slides later that kind of emphasize that like it was meant to feel nice and for you to fidget with it. Here we have one out of porcelain. I do not know what that is on the inside of it. There wasn't another image that made it clearer. I think it's two men playing Go. I think that's what it is. Why they used Ivory so much? Because it would have been imported, and so it would have been a luxury item. Plus it was it carved well and was very smooth and good to. It was suited to the purpose, you know, because it was strong and smooth and easy to carve. Yeah, this is a 19th century porcelain one with some lovely painting on it. And this one, let's see, 5.5 centimeters. This one's a little bigger. Something in the realm of 2 inches. There are some Netsuke that are quite tall. They are quite a bit bigger. We'll see some of those, and they were meant to be like tucked into the obi and like stick out over the top. Yeah, the dexterity. You'll see some really wild ones because it was generally considered proper, or like it was desired for Netsuke to be carved in one piece, and not to be different pieces attached to each other. So you'll see a lot of really, really impressive carving that was done in really secret techniques that the artist developed for it. Here we have some somewhat unusual materials. This rabbit is in crystal. It's a much later one. This would have been after the time that Netsuke really fell out of use. At a certain point, sort of Western influence started to enter Japan more, and people stopped wearing traditional clothes as much, and it became more like Western style business suits. And you don't really need sagemono with that when you just have pockets. So they came out of use, but they still were a collector's item because Westerners arrived and really liked Netsuke and wanted to buy a lot of them, and so they started to be produced exclusively for export to Europe and America. And it's generally considered that as an art form at that point it kind of declined sharply. But the one on the right is carved out of amber. I only saw a couple of images of amber ones. They're very uncommon, but they're out there. Yeah, there was no Netsuke union, that's for sure. It was done from done by a much smaller group, at least until it became, like you said, they're an industry. Let's see. I have a couple of lists of other materials, of other odd materials. Sometimes they would have been carved out of bamboo. Sometimes they were even carved out of the wood of a tea bush. They were carved from antlers, cattle's teeth, tortoise shell, jade, onyx, sandstone, various metals. Sometimes those who did metal work also dipped into Netsuke, but it was kind of tough to make a good Netsuke out of metal because it's a little heavy. Whoa! Hold the lecture a moment. See some late attendees coming down the hallway. Hold on, let me open the door for them. Thank you for the 20 gifted memberships. Thank you for opening the door to everybody. That's so nice of you. So nice to hold the door for folks. Some were carved out of bird beaks. Occasionally they were made out of lacquer, like Inro were. They even used the pits of cherries and whatnot. I have listed here pressed sawdust. I don't think I ever saw any in my searching that were pressed sawdust, but I'm told they exist. There were some, and I could not find any that fit into here. But there are some that are woven from vines. I saw one that was like this, like a little tiny teapot that's woven like a basket would be. Very cool. So there was a lot of ingenuity and a variety in what they were made from. Doesn't stand the passage of time as well? No, probably not. But yeah, woven. That one I really have no idea how that was done. At the scale it was. Here we have a little bit of a show of the wear that they could develop over time. If they were handled. So some, I think more common in earlier ones and perhaps in specific regions. To paint Netsuke, a lot of them were not painted, but this one you can see was painted and then used quite a bit, and so you can see where the edges are worn down and the paint has worn off, and it's definitely been well loved. And then for Ivory ones, you can see how they take on a patina over time with use. So you can see where he's kind of starting to orange up. Isn't he cute? Don't seem to have holes for the rope to go through. They would be on the back. Generally they would be on the back so that you're seeing like the best frontal part of it over the edge of the obi, and it's not getting tucked away. But they would be carved on all sides. Apparently it is a mark of later lower quality ones that the carving on other sides would not be so good. That is a boar. We'll get to tapir though. So yeah, this one most likely has the holes like on the bottom, and this one probably on the back. I have more in here that show off sort of where the holes are, where I included multiple images. But this is an example of the sort of aji aspect of it, where it was meant to be handled, and you can see that like the form of this is sort of made to be soft and nice. And it doesn't have any, like, protruding parts. But yeah, this guy is Daikoku, who's I believe a god of wealth. I didn't make a lot of specific notes on, like, the mythological figures in here. But one of the books that I listed does go into a lot of, maybe not like a ton of detail about that, but sort of describes a lot of common figures that were used. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it's cool to, like, I don't know, see that interaction over time with these. Or for luck then, probably, yeah. You can see this guy, I believe his whole thing is, he's usually depicted with this big bag of wealth that he carries around with him, and so that's what you see there. Moving on, there are many different types. There's different styles and they have different names. So the ones that we've mostly been seeing so far would be called kataburi Netsuke, and that means that they are carved on all sides. They're just like, they're a full little sculpture. In addition to that, you have the manju Netsuke, which is based on a bean paste bun. That's where the name comes from. And so those tend to be simpler. You can see here a lovely chrysanthemum one. You also have one down here that is a deer, and it's got some like inlaid ivory and lacquer in it. This one is sort of the most simple form of a manju Netsuke. It's functional. It gets the job done. I believe you would take out the center part for the cord to pass through. Some of these you would have that like hole in the center, and then some of them would have like either holes that pass through the back or a ring attached to the back. Like a very tasty candy. Yeah, no, this is a demonstration. This is what a manju is when it's not a Netsuke. This is the bean paste bun that they're named after. And then, looks oddly edible. No, wait a second. Wait a second. And then the manju type developed into the ryusa type, which is named after the artist who developed the style, and so it's based on the same shape, but it is entirely, it's carved in open work, and so it's hollowed out and very delicate looking. And this is an example of one of those with the inro that accompanies it. Which, by the way, inro are like their own whole thing. I didn't go deep into them. But they are gorgeous. They're all done in lacquer, which means it's like this very intricate process of layering and carving, and I don't know exactly how this one was made, but like it's the way it's made. They're made for the pieces to fit together tightly, and there's a whole. It's a lot. That's something that you can look into on your own if you feel like it. But yeah, this one's gorgeous. But again, Ryusa style, named after the artist who originated it. Same shape as a manju, but a little bit different. And then, so something with Netsuke, because it wasn't an established school, or at least wasn't for a long time, and then at a certain point it became an industry and they were trying to upsell foreigners and whatnot. There was a lot of people signing names to Netsuke that were not theirs. People just kind of making up whatever they wanted to claim about it. And I noticed that a lot of the museum listings I found just kind of listed them as made by the artist that it says, and without any further sort of commentary on it. So we have two Netsuke here that are listed as by Ryusa, the actual artist himself. Ryusa, who I'm told lived in the 18th century. This one says it is by Ryusa. It is from the 19th century. And you can see a distinct difference in the style. I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna wager it's not authentic. And this one may not even be authentic either, but it is more in line with the typical Ryusa style. So it is, I would say it is more likely at least that this one is real. But this one, not so much. Who made that, I do not know, but it is definitely in a much, rougher, simpler style that to me would indicate that it was potentially made sort of in the later style, or in the later period when they were made for export. Don't know for sure. But yeah, there's a lot of sort of wishy-washy crediting with these. Something else about Netsuke is that it's really hard to know when they were made. There's certain stylistic points that can be picked out in some of them sometimes, and you can kind of tell by the wear or not. But largely, it's just a guess. Almost all of these are only dated to a century in their listings, and that's kind of a huge range, and we can't really narrow it down further because that's just how it is. So that's those. Another distinct type that was common was masks. Mask carvers who would make theater masks also delved into making teeny tiny versions of those masks. So you can see that these are masks of an appropriate size for a mouse. And there's a huge variety, and they're very fun. And a lot of them are in different, the one's top right. I know, isn't he such a guy? A lot of these are, would be similar to the masks that were actually used in theater and represent specific characters from those. I wonder if there are any existing Netsuke with some sort of initials or markings on them to indicate the artists. Yeah, a lot of them are signed. I think you'll see at least one image of that somewhere. They would either carve their signature into it or potentially inlay an ivory plaque that had their signature on it, but again, a lot of those were fake. So Literally me. Why would they get a pic of me? This guy is you guys seem to like this guy. He's Shotoko. Anytime it is an artist signature, I say signed. And anytime it is the name of like the figure or what the thing is, I just list that. So this is Shotoko if you wanna find out more about him as a traditional Japanese figure. He's quite a guy. I like Screaming Guy too. He's fun, isn't he? I think this one's my favorite out of these. This one's a little spooky. A tiny bit. But yeah, these would have most likely been made by professional mask carvers, sort of on their as a side thing, in addition to their proper work. You guys want to look at some animals? Animals were a very common, commonly depicted in Netsuke, and this presentation may be slightly biased towards animal Netsuke over, other ones of various mythological figures and whatnot. Seems like a Chillazart game, yeah. Yeah, No was, I think it's still around. A variety of traditional theater. Hope we see some Shorks. I'm afraid I will have to disappoint you in terms of Shorks. But most commonly among animals, they depicted the animals of the zodiac, which here you see a couple of works that depict every creature of the zodiac all in one. I don't have a shark. There weren't any sharks. I'm sorry. I didn't find any sharks. I have some fish, if that is good enough. So yeah, again, these are sort of in the same scale we've been looking at for the most part. You can see that the eyes on these are inlaid with another material. They used a variety of different, sometimes the inlays are like coral even, like the red ones for rabbits. I don't know if I have it listed specifically what other kinds of things, but there's usually like a black inlay for eyes on a lot of these. The 4 beasts of the 4 directions. I didn't see that mentioned, but potentially. No Shorks? I'll never... I mean, there might have been Shorks. Apparently, well, let me see if I can find the year. Let me see if I can find the specific year that it was, so I can be specific about it. In 1854, there was a major earthquake and fires that would have taken out and destroyed a lot of Netsuke that we could have seen. So who knows, maybe that was the point in time when they made a lot of sharks and we lost them all. I have a new mission in life. I don't think it would be the first one, but anyway, here we have several depictions of all of the zodiac animals. And then we have a couple of horses. The one on the left is from the 18th century. And you can kind of, I feel like the difference between these two is kind of emblematic of an overall style shift, where like this guy's a little more stylized. He's got kind of a different pose going on, where this one is a pose and style that you see quite a bit. Like at a certain point, they develop this depiction of horses, and you can see the one in the overlay too. And that got used quite a bit. Sharks weren't understood during that time. Yeah, well, they did use like shark and ray skin for things in Japan back in the day. I feel like I had an extra note about this somewhere. What would I lost my train of thought. Oh, there were, I don't know if I have the specific time listed in which these appeared, but there were several books of illustrations that were meant for artists and carvers to draw designs from. And so it's entirely possible that this horse design that becomes really common comes from that. But there was also a general trend away from this more stylized look towards a more naturalistic look in the depictions of animals over time. But it also varied by the artist and whatnot. He's more practical. Yeah, this guy does have more of a practical look to him than this one. On this, most likely the cord would have passed between the legs. I doubt it has a dedicated cord hole, like, on the body. There are definitely some Netsuke that look distinctly impractical. You'll notice. But again, that's, you know, them pushing more of the artistic side of it. Here we have the rat. I love the rat. I love the rats, and that puts me in league with all of the many Europeans and Americans who came and apparently really loved rat Netsuke, and so they became very popular because the people loved them and they really wanted them they wanted to buy them. This is an adorable rat ball. And then on these ones you can see the way that, like, the bottom was carved. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that and it's not so relevant to these ones, but I don't know why the rats. They just mentioned that the foreigners really enjoyed the rats. They didn't say why. I don't know if they knew why. It was important as a mark of a good well-carved Netsuke that it could stand up on its own. And so on these ones you can see that, like, the bottom is carved flat enough that it sits nicely, but they did still carve the detail on every side of Y. Or, sorry, I read the word Y and my brain autofilled. They carved every side of it, even though it, like, still manages to sit flat. The rat in the middle is me for real, after realizing how much work you have backed up. Oh no. Oh no. I like the way he's, like, grabbing his tail with his front feet. It's kind of hard to see. But yeah, on this one on the left, you can see how the cord would have passed through this space, probably. Yeah, also on this one you can see the signature. You can see that there's, like, a carved space where there's, like, that space in the fur, and you can see a signature on it. We also have the tiger. The tiger is not a native to Japan, and you can perhaps tell from these depictions that we were getting sort of an indirect story of them. So we have a couple of different ideas of what a tiger looks like. I like the one on the left, kind of gives me a Garfield vibe. I like him. 100% one for one. Yeah, you see a lot of kind of funny tiger. I don't see the problem. But this one you see a mother and cub tiger, and you see quite a few Netsuke that depict a mother and child animal as sort of like a good luck thing, I think. It does look kind of like a weasel. So you can also see that in this beautiful hen with little chicks, where they carved in immense detail every single feather of the chicken. Be more frightened to see that in the wild. Hello, I'm doing pretty good. Welcome in. So these would have been a lucky sort of thing to show, you know, the peaceful, their sort of nice existence. There's also, it's a little bit down the list from now, but we have one that's, puppies were sort of like a good luck thing for kids. And so those were around as well. Yeah, very, I don't know, very tender, this one. We also have... Oh, that's empty. We also have rabbits, were quite common. I did not include a rabbit which is perhaps, which is apparently very well known, Netsuke, because there is a book. It's like a memoir someone wrote about like his family's Netsuke collection, and I think it's the hair with the amber eyes. I did not read that, but that Netsuke in particular is quite well known because of that book, I think. But here you can see this one is carved in ivory and it's got an inlaid eye. And this one's got a little flower. Congrats on your job interview! Oh no. Well, I hope it goes well for you. The forbidden white chocolate Easter bunny! It does have that look to it, right? You can even see the way it's got like these like lines of texture in it that are very visually subtle, but imagine like if you were touching it, you'd be able to feel those. But yeah, you get a lot of rabbits sort of in this very soft, I guess, blobby style. They have a very refined and stylized form to them. They're very interesting, where like this one is sort of a, I would say, a more natural looking rabbit. Yeah, it does look like it would like be squishy, like it's made of, like, it looks like it's made of marshmallow or something. Yeah. They seem to have had a fascination with those, with like this depiction of rabbits. But yeah, definitely would have been really hard to do. Lovely statues. You can't call this a statue, it's the size of your thumb. Think about it. Think how little and cute that would be. Looks like a squishy toy for a child. Would you chew it? Man. Here we have a crab with a shell on a piece of bamboo. So it's like an opened piece of, it's like a split piece of bamboo that he's like sitting inside of. And he's got a shell. It was also not uncommon to depict like bugs on roof tiles, like fallen roof tiles, and like bugs or other little animals on them. I saw some of that, and that ends up with kind of a similar shape to this. Bamboo. Yeah, it's a me reference. But again, this guy's, I feel like you see a lot in like the 4.5 centimeters range, which is again roughly thumb size, depending on the size of your thumbs. We have I found more frogs than this, but I liked this guy. It says frog. He looks kind of toadish to me. But look at the like intricacy of the like texture of his skin up here, and then the difference between that and like the smooth underside where he's all puffed up. There's a lot of attention here, and then again with inlaid eyes. I know, he does look very toad. It said frog. These museum listings were not the most reliable. I'll complain about it later. Was the crab actually done by Hokute? I do not know. I don't think that was an artist that was mentioned in anything I read, by name at least. So that's, who knows. My well-researched on this subject, I tried to be. That was my idea here. Here we have a couple of snakes. This one is a style of Netsuke that I did not bring up earlier, which I will admit I don't quite understand. It is a Kagami-buta Netsuke, which was made generally with an ivory sort of bowl disc. Well, not bowl. And then a metal disc that fits into it. And I think the idea is you pull off the disc and the cord passes I didn't quite understand, and I couldn't find any clarification on it. But the disc comes out, and it's usually polished so that it would serve as like a mirror, very small mirror, but it could be a mirror. And then I think you would pop the disc out to like get to the cord inside. I could be wrong on that. Don't trust that 100%. But this is another style that's sort of in the same shape as the Manju ones, but a different thing. And this would have been would have taken metal work, which you don't see as much in other Netsuke. And it's got like the main metal that it's made of, and then it's got sort of gold and silver added as well for these details. There's some really cool snake ones that I saw. I don't have like the most impressive ones that I saw here, but ones were like really intricately coiled, cool dudes. Yeah, and I think something like a snake also affords a lot of opportunities to incorporate the cord holes into the design. And also kind of, you get like a really smooth overall feel. You can kind of see, on this one I feel like it's hard to tell if it's sort of the way it's carved, that there's less detail here and more in like these gathered up parts, or if that's part of the wear. You can also see where like it's kind of stained in the darker areas. How they carve these, but do it so intricately. Did they have magnifying glasses? I did not see anything that said they had magnifying glasses, but I do know that it took them months to make a single one of these. So just very carefully and very slowly. Made of metal, and the other normal spheres are just metal. The outside part of this is ivory, and then the disc part would be metal, if that's what you mean. I think I've seen some of these where the outside bowl is wood instead, but it was usually ivory for this type. Up next we have a couple. They didn't like come with any additional information, so I don't have a date on them or anything. But these are both pelicans. Here you can see a ceramic one, and I have no idea what this one's made of. It didn't say. But he's painted differently, and he's in kind of a rougher style. There was a style that I don't know if I wrote the name of, but there was a carving style that was less common, that was a one knife style, where you get kind of a rougher look. You can kind of see the facets of the carving because it's only done with one knife. And this kind of has that rougher feeling to it, at least somewhat. Amount of anxiety. Well, they did this for fun. It was a hobby. They were generally not professionals at this kind of carving. So I imagine it was just I don't imagine it was very anxious. More meditative, probably. You caught a copperhead snake. Oh. Link to there's no Etsy page. You can actually find Netsuke for sale pretty easily on like eBay if you are so inclined. I don't know if you can trust that they're legit or anything, but they're out there. The business must have been booming. Yeah. You hear about the old master professional Japanese craftsman in media. Must be something about calligraphy or painting, not this. Yeah, because that was like such a standardized thing. But at a certain point, like before Netsuke fell out of use because traditional clothing fell out of use, almost every man in Japan, at least, would have been wearing Netsuke at least at some times. Something else I didn't mention before is that some people did have Netsuke and Inro and whatnot that were like themed to certain times. Like they would have ones that were specifically for like New Year's. And they would have sort of good luck symbols, that kind of thing, or ones for weddings. They would have a collection and have ones for different times, different uses. The Emperor was not breathing down their neck the entire time. No, they were chilling. There were some Netsuke carvers that were employed by people of higher standing, because they were so skilled, but that was still usually not their main profession. Yeah, the invention of pockets did Netsuke in entirely. Yeah, this guy might be clay. Like, this one is definitely ceramic. This one might also be ceramic, but I don't know. There's something about it that kind of looks carved to me. I'm not sure. Here we have a nice wooden cicada. I wanted to get more bug ones, but I didn't find as many as I would have liked. If you buy a kimono today, does it come with Netsuke or like just some regular plastic / wood? I don't know if it would come with it. You'd probably just have to find your own. I don't know. There are definitely still Netsuke carvers today. In the description I linked to a museum. It is the only Netsuke museum in Japan. Probably one of the only places in Japan that displays Netsuke. And it's mostly contemporary carving that they show. There are people who, like, even though it's not in active use except for, you know, whenever people would take the occasion to wear traditional clothing, people still keep it alive as an art form. Most people wouldn't want others thinking they had a bug on them. You know, that's fair. But they were depicted. I've seen a few where it's like a spider sitting on something. You know, the bug isn't the entire Netsuke, but there is a bug there, you know. Up next we have one that I showed Roommate, and I had to include it because Roommate loved it so much. I imagine you guys might too. We have a puppy chewing on a string. And this is one that was repeated quite frequently. You can find a lot of different iterations of this guy. I wonder if they stick to traditional old-timey tools or if they have more specialized modern tools. From what I could see, they mostly do it still traditionally with hand tools and not like a Dremel or anything. So yeah, this would have been like a good luck for children kind of thing. Look at all that hair. I know, the incredibly detailed hair, the little like whisker spots. He's got inlaid eyes again. He's standing on like I think it said a straw mat. See, he's just a little guy. It's kind of hard to see, but the string he's got like wraps around the side of him there so that it's not sticking out. He's got his little tail. Winning all the spelling bees. When these be like choking hazards, I do not know. I don't know how young there was not really mention of the specifics of children wearing Netsuke. So I don't know how young they might have, and I don't know enough about traditional Japanese garb to know what age would have been appropriate for even wearing a whole kimono that this would have been appropriate with. But that's still at least generally what a depiction of a puppy like this would have been about, so. Any dolphins? I do not have any dolphins here. I don't think I saw any dolphins. We have fish. We also have this guy. I highly recommend looking up additional plum sparrow Netsuke. There are several out there that look like this, and they are hilarious. I love them. It's such a little dude. And you can see this one, where the feet are sort of very minimally carved, and mostly just like laid in and stained. I have no idea what the origin of this style of bird is, but they're great. There's a few of them out there, and they're beautiful. Hello, welcome in. Why is he looking at you like that? What'd you do? Does that fish have a neck? This is a bird. This is not a fish. It's a weird little bird, and this is a good one where you can see the cord holes and you can see how one of them is usually bigger than the other, and so that it works like nicely with the knot. This is most certainly not a bird. I don't know what to tell you. That's a bird. Look at his little feet. It's a bird. There's more out there like him. Some of them are slightly more bird-like, but there's a lot in this style. I love them. This one you can also see the signature on. And this is even also sort of an older one. A lot of the Netsuke you find listed in places are from the 19th century. It is harder to find older ones, especially. Those are feathers. Leave him alone. He's sensitive about it. Okay. So those are what we have for real animals. As for mythical animals, I don't have a ton of them in here, but I was reading in preparation for this, and there were 2 mythical animals that were listed back to back, and I went, wow, that's a wild coincidence. And then I read something else where they were listed back to back again, and I went, wow, this is a wild coincidence. It is the Baku and the Kirin. There are a lot of Netsuke of these 2 figures. I think the Kirin a little bit more. And they are also depicted quite similarly. So you can see the way that they're usually depicted with like, so it's sitting facing this way, but it like turns its head around and has it facing the other way. They're usually depicted doing that. You can see this Baku is also depicted in a similar fashion. These ones you can also see the really strong staining to bring out the details. But a lot of mythical animals you get like this cool swirly hair kind of pattern. And they're really something. But this overall design was quite common for Kirin. You see it's got a lot of variation, but this general sort of pose and depiction was quite frequent. Here we have another Baku and another Kirin. This one's a little different. This one's also a little older. On this Baku, you can see where like the cord would have passed in between the feet. And I don't know, I'm guessing this would be gold lacquer that this is stained with instead of the usual ink look. I don't think it said, but it's a slightly different Baku. Maybe they are half owl. They do like to twist around. They're very dragon-like. And these would have been sort of Chinese influenced, especially. Yeah, the other Baku, you can see like his head here, and then he's got like one front foot here, and the other front foot here, and then here's his back legs. He's sitting here, and he's just got a bunch of hair all over. And his snoot up here with tusks, and there's his eye. Did they picture his head? No. On this Kirin, this is the head, and then you can see where the neck twists around here, and then you have the front leg. On the other front leg, the back legs here. It's sitting in a very strange way. You want to zoom? Okay. Which one do I need to zoom on? I tried to make these big. I know this one is like kind of especially hard to see because of the weird shine. Yeah, very uncomfortable yoga pose. But the Kirin was seen as a distinctly auspicious animal that was very, very gentle. Known for being quite kind and gentle, etc. And the Baku eats nightmares, as some of you may be aware. Something else from Chinese influence is the Shishi, which is a sort of sort of mythical lion. This one's just a head. And then this one, he's also perhaps slightly hard to see, but I will make him bigger. This one's done in ebony, which is why it's so dark. But it has a lot of this like texture that feels like it would be very fun to touch. Yeah, this is a shishi. I know he's looking at you. He's got a Like Mighty, we didn't have lion sculptures, we just had rocks. I mean, that is how Netsuke were. I bet there were grumpy old men who went, you know, back in my day, my Netsuke was a tree branch. You kids these days and your fancy carvings. But yeah, shishi were very, very common in Netsuke. We saw one on that boar tusk earlier as well. Very, very fun dudes, very fun brow here he's got. A lot of detail in the flow of the tail. And those are our mythical animals. There were some. We have a little bit more in the not quite animal range later. We also have, you've seen mushrooms. Here we have a pumpkin with a leaf and a frog that I thought was quite nice, and the attention to like the texture of the pumpkin. My Netsuke was a Game Boy Deluxe cartridge. Oh, kids these days. You can also see the cord hole here. The other one probably would have been on the very bottom. But I feel like the shape of this leaf is so natural and impressive. Very cool. I don't know. Some artists would have done. I don't know when pumpkins made it to Japan. Some artists believed in really detailed and intricate sketching in preparation for their Netsuke, their guarding pose. Yeah, there are Netsuke that are in that typical shishi pose. No, this is like the stem. This is like the vines of the. Yeah, this is like the pumpkin vines. Not worms. What was I saying? I lost it. Guys, what was I saying? The Kazan comment distracted me. Act with dishonor. What was I saying? Oh, some artists did a lot of sketching from life, specifically, for their Netsuke. And that seems to be more of the attitude that you can see in this one. And some artists believed that was like not to be done. No preparatory drawing. There was one story they told in one of the books I read about an artist who disappeared, and his family was very worried. He disappeared for several days, and then he came back and said that he had gone off into the mountains to watch deer so that he could carve them live in person. And he just didn't tell anyone. He just wandered off to do that, and then he came back and had a deer he had carved, and he was very pleased with that. A Kazan Netsuke. So some people were very dedicated to naturalistic depictions for their tiny carvings. Simpler times, I know, right? I also have another mushroom one. Another one where you can see the hole is kind of built into the design nicely. What a guy, I know, right? I always wanted a museum for the blind where it's about texture and shape and there's some colors, stuff like that. Some of these I feel like it kind of approaches that. You were a Jarling Netsuke. Pumpkin arrived in Japan in the 16th century. Well, there you go. They were already quite familiar with pumpkins by the time that one was carved in the 18th century. It's the parent and baby motif again. Kinda is, you know. Yeah, you see some fun mushroom ones here and there. I think I might have skipped it. There was one that seemed very impractical. It was like this really long line of mushrooms, and they said it was a Netsuke, but I kind of didn't believe it. I guess I don't know what kind of mushrooms they are. I'm sorry, I'm not a mushroom expert. Next up we have some people. Which again, like I said before, this talk is slightly biased against these ones, but they were very common. Do not let the number of their representations in this talk be indicative of how many were produced. These were their depictions of foreigners. There are quite a few Netsuke of Dutchmen, most of them holding chickens. This one was just called Foreigner. He might be Chinese. He might be Dutch too, I don't know. The hat is quite similar, so it's possible. Had to commit to the Bic when it took you 3 weeks to carve it. Don't talk to me or my son ever again. True. Yeah, they are foreigners, alright. This is one where you can see he has a definitely very comfortable cord hole there. Mythical creatures indeed. But yeah, I didn't include it because it was hard to find sort of the specific information on a lot of the figures that are depicted in these, because there are a lot of them that depict specific figures or specific legends and whatnot. Hello, welcome in. That I was not able to identify. I did, much too late, find a museum collection that actually does a good job of identifying what is actually depicted specifically in a Netsuke, but alas. There were also depictions of daily life. So here we have a couple of fishing themed ones. We have putting a fish in a basket. But it's sort of a... You see a lot of comical Netsuke. You see a lot of them that are funny, especially, you see a lot of ones, because they were meant to go with Inro, and the Inro were usually medicine boxes. There was a lot of them that were made to be humorous as like as sort of an additional medicine for whoever was carrying them. So I thought that was fun. There's a few that are this depiction of like the blind men trying to describe an elephant that are pretty cute. This is a fisherman dressed for the rain. So this is a good example of the ones where like they were supposed to be carved to stand on their own. Obviously this isn't photographed standing. Maybe it doesn't stand on its own. But it was generally considered good carving if they could stand on their own, and when it's a sort of tall human figure like this, you can kind of see where that came into prominence. But yeah, it became more popular later on, I think, that they depicted sort of daily life, or it was only in some regions that they were more interested in depicting just sort of regular people doing regular things as Netsuke. There were also a lot of like legendary or historical Chinese generals who were depicted in Netsuke. This guy, I didn't realize my octopus was too tall when I was making my slides. This guy was well known for being, he was known in Japan as Kanu, and was known for being incredibly loyal, and he's usually depicted like holding his beard like this. And this guy's quite tall. You can see he is 12.7 centimeters. This is the kind that would probably have been worn tucked into the obi. So like you'd have the top part of him sticking out and then the bottom would be tucked into the belt. There was slice of life Netsuke. Feel weird carrying a laughing fisherman. Yeah, I feel like it would be kind of odd, but this guy is quite tall. He's more comparable to the size of my hand. Not quite the full length of my hand, but like closer to that kind of size. This one I could not. I went back. I tried to go back through my sources and find the name of this guy, but it's supposed to be like this story of a man who is known for having trained his horse so well that he could make it stand on a go table. And so you get a variety of depictions of that. The horses do tend to look a little bit awkward doing that though, don't they? But yeah, I felt like this was, even though I couldn't find the name, this was a good example of sort of seeing a lot of different depictions of the same thing, which you got throughout Netsuke. We also have some distinctly more mythical figures, such as Ashinaga and Tenaga, who are long legs and long arms, respectively. And they paired up to be able to catch fish. So long legs would be able to wade out deep into the water, and then long arms with his long arms could catch the fish easily. Very Slenderman. They reminded me of these guys. You don't like this? What, you don't like them? You don't. They were. You could have worn these on your belt. They reminded me of these guys from Yu Yu Hakusho. But yeah, this one I like this. I like this depiction that shows them standing next to. I think it said a child, but it's you gotta admit that's effective fishing, no? They should have put them in Space Jam. But anyway, these are one of these is unreasonably tall. One of them is quite a decent size, at a little over 5.5 centimeters. But one of these is 15 centimeters, and that's kind of insane to imagine actually wearing. I don't think that was a very practical one. Why do all the children flee when I approach? You fight these guys in Neo? You probably do. When I was reading about the origins of Netsuke, I had a lot of moments where I was like, oh, that's like that one thing and that other thing. I've seen these before. Yeah. He created the Toguro brothers as Netsuke, yep. Yeah, I'm gonna guess they're not in the water. I don't know. Anyway, that's Ashinaga and Tenaga. Here we have a couple of different dudes associated with fish. On the left is Ibisu, who is like a guardian of fishermen. Usually depicted alongside some kind of fish. And you can see all of the really cool detail on his clothing here. All like the patterns depicted in what he's wearing. Which one is named Long Legs? Which one is named Long Arm? Hello, it's going pretty good. And then on this side you have Kinko, who was a great sage who went around drawing fish, and then one day he met the king of the fish and he went away to go live in the fish kingdom, and he was like, I'll come back at a certain time, everybody just wait for me. And then he came back and was like, hey guys, turns out I'm gonna go stay with the fish. And so this is him riding a carp, and he definitely reminded me of the guy from Sekiro who serves the big fish. I imagine that's where that came from. There was a lot of these. I was like, oh, that thing from Sekiro. That shows you my cultural awareness. But yeah, there's even you can even see the fish's teeth in here. Also just like Sekiro. Why doesn't anyone meet divine beings these days anymore? I know, right? Wouldn't that be nice? And here we have a Dharma. Who's having a grand time. There you see a lot of comedic Dharma in Netsuke of various dispositions, I guess. I'm just gonna head out and visit the fish people. Was the old age going out for milk? It was. He came back and all his pupils were it said there were thousands of people gathered for his return. And well, they were perhaps disappointed. It said that they understood that he had to go back though. First featured in second. Listen, it's what I got. It's what I got. Anyway, this is Dharma. Known for sitting and meditating for, I think it said 9 years. And at that time he decided it was time to get up, and then he realized he didn't have legs anymore, and so he's a roly-poly man. Yeah, he doesn't have toes to hit on a door. But there's a lot of funny depictions of him. No, I think this is when he's done. This might be when he realizes he doesn't have legs anymore. That might be it. Yeah. But yeah, that's a fun one of those. I could have included more, but I feel like this one really said a lot on his own. He needs the help from long legs. He does. We have some more mythical figures around. We got some Tengu on the left here. If I can move their label where you can see it. This one's quite late actually, so this would have been by the time that these were mainly made for export and not for active use. We have an Oni in the middle. And we have, on the right, you have an Oni arm, which would be from the, Demon of Rashomon story. A man, the area was plagued by some sort of demon, and then one night a man was out and he found a lady who wanted a ride home, and he picked her up, and then he went, "Wait a second, you're the demon?" And she tried to, well, I guess it tried to attack him, but he managed to cut the arm off. And that's the arm. They depicted it, and I've seen plenty of Netsuke of it. It's out there. So that's what that is. Aren't those the monkeys from Wizard of Oz? You know, they kinda are. Tengu are like depicted differently. These are the bird people version of Tengu. You don't see Crow Tengu and Long-Nosed Tengu together very often. No! But something I gathered from Netsuke is that there's a lot of like really mixed interpretations and depictions of them. They're not very set in stone at all. What does Demon Arm taste like? I don't think he ate it. He held on to it and then the demon came back to take it and then turned into smoke and went away. So. The versions of Tengu? Yeah, they both have wings, but one of them definitely has the beak and one of them has the long nose, and they're carrying the whatever package they're carrying on the nose, which is funny. When wearing a yokai/Japanese monster would be kind of bad luck. Well, I think wearing the arm in the case of this story is sort of a symbol of the man's like managing to survive. The other guys, I'm not so sure. I think the Tengu were more of like a funny figure. But the Oni, I'm not so sure. I don't have specifics on this guy. We also have the Kappa. Ibaraki Dochi is the Oni, the lost arm. There you go. We also have the Kappa, which you guys probably are at least somewhat familiar with. It has such a It has such an air about it, this kappa. Doesn't it? You give the demon Netsuke to your enemies. I did see that, it was stated that some of the cool young dudes who wanted to show off their money would get like kind of macabre Netsuke and tobacco pouches and stuff because they thought with like skulls and snakes and stuff because they thought that was cool. So maybe that's what having an Oni Netsuke was like. Chewbacca's had it rough. Dang. When you asked for Oni gear, but only for the Oni part. Yeah, I love there's something about like the ears poking out. I don't know, this one, it's there's something about it. The Hot Topic Netsuke, yeah, exactly. I know, I don't know how to describe it, it's just got such a something. It feels so natural in a weird way. I like the way the hair is carved so that it blends in nicely here, and it also makes it so that like the back of it is more of a smooth form. Looks like he's gonna tailor your clothes in Elden Ring. Another mainstream game. Candid, yeah. He's so disappointed. Yeah, he does look disappointed. Looks like he doesn't have a turtle shell, just his back has the turtle patterns. Yeah, I think he kind of has a turtle shell, but it makes more sense for the design for it not to like stick out, I guess. That or it's just that he's depicted with sort of a, I don't know, more minimal shell. But that's those guys. Something else that's fun in Netsuke is that they sometimes had dual uses or interesting tricks to the way they were carved. The ones I have to show you are just tricks to the way they were carved, but I have a list of some of the fun other uses that they had. If I can find it real quick. I thought I marked it, but maybe I didn't. It seems I did. Oh, I did. Some Netsuke were made as a paired compass and sundial. Some could also be used as a knife. Some were made as tea whisks. Or I feel like it'd perhaps be more accurate to say that there were tea whisks that could be used as Netsuke. There was an abacus. There were candlesticks, spyglasses, ink cases, because they would have carried the ink in a hard block form and then grinded it and wet it to use, and even a magnifying glass. So those I think are largely not surviving or not available for viewing to me, but they are apparently out there, which seems really cool. Doesn't jet out so it lays on the clothes better. Yeah, definitely some Netsuke are designed more with function in mind than others. But then you also have some like these, where they don't have another use, but there's something particular to the way they are carved. So this one, is a like lotus pod, and the seeds in these would be loose. They can't come out, but they rattle around in it. They're carved so that they are detached. They're still from the same piece and they're embedded in there, but it would rattle and they would be loose inside of there. And that's like along the lines of those like secret techniques that they would have had that they weren't gonna let anybody know how they did that. You have to choose between disappointed Kappa, fish bird, and long arms, short arms. Which do you choose for your Kimba? For the fancy party, I'm going fish bird. Good evening, welcome in. Definitely fidget toy. Yeah, definitely. I think I had a note of more that were along these lines, but I might have lost it. Oh, they also made ones that were like this, that were like wasp nests, where it was like the larvae inside that would be rattling. I saw one of those. But you guys might appreciate the lotus a little bit more. This one is a biwa fruit, which I didn't know is a loquat. That opens up, and it has men inside playing Go. So there were also fun things like that. You can see how this would have also ended up with how this could have also gotten you ones that would be cases for things. But this whole thing is less than 4 centimeters. So think of how small the figures inside would have to be. Wild. And then the things on the right are just depictions of the fruit that this is made from, because I thought that was fun. Keeping techniques is crazy respected though, yeah. Well, because then, you know, if they didn't share it, then they could command a higher price. It was very exclusive, you know. If they could be like, I have this thing that only I can do. I have this special Netsuke that I can make. Would be nice in Apocalypse World. Yeah. So there were also some that opened like this that had a sort of different content to them. There were erotic Netsuke. And so that some of those would be ones like this, where it looks normal and then it opens up and reveals the spicy contents. I didn't include those here. We will not show that now. So if you're curious about those, they're out there. Working for 6 months on a tiny thing that can just slip and disappear. Yep. You had to sub to the Patreon for those. And then I didn't have another section to put these ones in, so they ended up just being the last thing I had hanging around without a category, and I figured why not end with them. We have a bunch of skeletons. We have a bunch of skeletons. This goes back to maybe sort of the macabre idea. I love this one where it's on the skull. Apparently, this one is actually made where this arm and the skull are separate pieces that were attached later. Which helps it to sort of hold up to changes in temperature and stuff. But yeah, this one again, size of your thumb. Isn't that insane? I love this guy. I don't know the story of this one, but I love he's holding a lantern. He's being helpful. And then the buck teeth. Netsuke Skebstream. But yeah, this guy's great. They kind of actually, I didn't realize before, they like all have just the 2 front teeth. All 3 of these. I love that this guy, he's modest, you know? He's still gotta keep it clean. Yeah. Looks like someone could show up in one piece, you know? This is supposed to say 3.8. It's not 38. Wait. 3.8. There we go. But yeah, some skeletons. I thought they were delightful. A delightful little last one. I don't think there's anything I even forgot to throw in. Hold on, let me consult. I think I said all of the things that I meant to say. Oh my god, I did it. Yeah, that was it. Wow. I do have, I don't know, I have more notes of things, but that was the big everything. The one under the lamp skeleton, is he just posing or sad? I don't know. He looks so pensive though, doesn't he? Okay, truck. Okay, truck outside. But yeah, that's Netsuke, and that's all I have on Netsuke. Here are my sources. Here is another fish. Whoops. Here is another fish. Is that close enough to shark? Is he good? We have a snail. We have another rat. And another rat and another rat. And in the description I linked a video to the contemporary carver who I mentioned before, who has you can see, it's a very short video, but you can see a little bit of the process of carving and kind of what it looks like. And then to the museum I mentioned, they have a little video about Netsuke, and it shows some of the contemporary ones that they have. I linked to the Netsuke Handbook, which is the one Japanese source I found that was written about Netsuke, because Netsuke are generally a fascination of the Western world, even though they are entirely a Japanese thing, because they were just sort of daily objects that then fell out of use in Japan. There's not really a lot of focus on them there, so a lot of like the scholarship and collections of them are Western, but there is the Netsuke Handbook, and that is on archive.org if you want to read it. A lot of cool images in there. Lots more on like specific artists. The truck Netsuke was really loud. Yeah, that's a more modern one. Get your knives and cowbones. Nah. No, I will not be teaching you how to make your own. A little blue background. I'm glad. Yeah, I went through and found a suitable pattern that I had in. It's for weeb scholars. Yeah, it's for weeb scholars. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it. It was fun to put together. I had fun learning about these. There's definitely a lot more out there. This top book listed here is very fun if you want to like learn more about sort of the basis of a lot of the figures in Netsuke. It has like an example and then a short description on each of them. You show music today too? I'm glad. I almost forgot to put together a playlist, and then shortly before stream I went, wait! I forgot. I even made a list last night, and then I did most of the list and went, okay, I'm done. And I neglected to notice that music was right there on my list, and I just, well. Recently played Paranorma Site, which featured Netsuke as cursed objects. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I think that there's like little bits of sort of, I don't know, mentions of Netsuke in various places that you wouldn't expect. But largely I feel like they're pretty unknown. I've seen them before in museums. If you're in the US or the UK, chances are they're not super hard to find at a museum. I think I've seen them several times at museums that were not like big museums or anything. Elsewhere, I'm not so sure what your chances would be, but I've seen them at museums before. That's why I know about them. Yeah, they're in Bob's Burgers. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I had something else I was about to say. Oh yeah, next time, I think just before the stream, I actually finally figured out what the next one's gonna be. I have a book that I've been reading, and another book that I gave up on reading, trying to find a specific topic for the next one, because I had like a general idea of something, but I think I finally stumbled across the actual specific topic that the next one will be. So look forward to something a little more ecological, perhaps, if I do stick with that. So it'll be a bit different from our art history one here. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it. These take a lot to put together, but I enjoy it very much. And I forgot to make our schedule for next week before the stream. I will make it and get it up later, but I will tell you what it will be now. I know what it will be already. Actually some cursed Netsuke things in Ghostwire Tokyo too. Oh, it was cool when the game worked. Well, if only I could have found that too. If only the game worked. Tomorrow will be Xenoblade, as usual. On Tuesday, we have a poll up between Minecraft, Jusant, and Anodyne. I believe Jusant is winning right now. It is a climbing game. Can you ask a favor for the schedule? Maybe. I'm glad you enjoyed looking at the little weirdos. Appreciate the effort. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out and enjoying it. I love sharing stuff. Wednesday, I have New Vegas again. Thursday will be Kazan as usual. Friday, we will be starting Bioshock 2. Saturday, I have Kabuto Park, which was on the poll, I think, last week. But did not win, but I want to play it anyway. It is a fun bug game. And then Sunday will be Marvelous Media Monthly, so I will have to get that scheduled. I will have to get that post up soon. Make sure I don't forget to do that. Yeah, that's the next week's schedule. I will get that actually put together and posted elsewhere. Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed. I hope you liked learning about Netsuke. Oh, something else in the description. Something else in the description is links to a few different museum collections that have a bunch more to look at. I recommend the LACMA one, especially because that's the one where they have everything labeled nicely with what they are if you want to learn more about them. Most of them, it goes, this is a dude, and I go, wow, thanks, that's helpful. But yeah, there's links to museum collections that you can browse if you want to see more of these. And also, this is my time when I have to say, I hate museums that copyright their images of artworks. I'm glad that they're available at all to see, but oh my god, they should not be copyrighted, and I hate them for that. But anyway. Can I move New Vegas? I'm gonna watch the live, but gonna be swamped the first 3 days of the week. We'll see what we can do. I'd have to move it to Saturday. I could maybe do that. That could happen. It could perhaps happen on Saturday instead. Then I have more time before I have to try to be funny in New Vegas again. And I get to play bug games sooner. We'll see. Yeah. So you can go check out the collections. They're out there. I drew really bad arrows. It's fine. I got it running somewhat stable. I have not touched it since the last stream. So I guess that would also give me more time to do that. Not sure how museums can copyright art when they didn't make the art. They copyright the photo of the art, which is stupid that they are able to do that even. There are some museums where they drop the copyright on it because of the age of the artwork, but they go, we don't really, we can't guarantee that it's out of copyright sometimes. And then, as I listed here, most of the images that I used here are from the Met because those are entirely public domain, as they should be. But alas. Yeah, it is quite dumb, and I don't appreciate it in the slightest. And that was all of the British museums I looked at, especially. That was them, so get it together, guys. Have a good one. Take care. Yeah, that's my pet peeve from trying to look for things for this. Can you copyright a screenshot of my stream? That's a great question. I do not know. All I know is museums can copyright photos of hundreds of years old plus artworks, which... Anyway, that was Netsuke. I hope you guys liked it. I'm gonna go eat pizza now. Yay. British hoarding cultural artifacts? No way. Yeah. Yeah, I hope you guys liked it. And I hope you look forward to the next one, which will hopefully be in about a month from now again. And look forward to Xenoblade tomorrow. And I think that's it. Have a good bread. Have a good rest of the day or night or whatever it is where you are. And I hope to see you next time. Bye bye!